up and running. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another OCS playoff game. This will be game number 2 of our first round action between Steve Brenson and Greg Shaw. Steve will be dark. We'll jump in here. Greg will be playing light. And Steve went with court. And Greg, we haven't seen his starting stuff yet. He's playing Diplo, okay? Okay, live stream up and running. Looks good. Just double checking on all that stuff. So Greg won the first game of their match. I believe they decided on 21 for being the number. Oh, it's a court Emperor start. So it's not a scum deck. He's playing a court mains deck. And he's conceding the first turn, letting his opponent go first. Interesting. The end of game 1, Steve just conceded part of the game. So they had to work out what the would have happened and what the differential should be. And I believe 21 is the number that they settled upon. But now we're looking at, there may be something going on here, because did Steve not have a third effect? Does he have the wrong starting interrupt? He seems to have to be stuck. He picked Jabba's Haven and the Phantom Menace. Well, his timer's running here, so it doesn't look like it's completely frozen up, but not quite sure exactly what's going on here. Oh, Steve is requesting the game be canceled, and Greg has agreed. So I guess we're going to get a restart here in a second. That's interesting. Back out to the lobby we go. And they'll try this again. Maybe he loaded the wrong deck. Same stuff, same spot. It's court. It's Diplo. It's according to my design. He picks the Emperor. Wipe, Jabba's Haven, and Crush. I guess he accidentally misclicked on the wrong starting effect or something. And I guess and rather than do a revert, they did a game cancel. Because I believe you can revert all the way back to your objectives and stuff being deployed. So, all right. So Steve's got some type of dark side mains running off a court. He's got Crush the Rebellion, Jabba's Haven, and Wipe them out. He's starting the Emperor in the audience chamber. He'll use Wipe them out, get one activation right away, which gives him the ability to use certain defensive interrupts, like Stunning Leader, like Imperial Barrier. And just play Sense and Alter, of course, as well. He also gives him the ability to grab something first turn, but he is letting his opponent go first in this instance, which is a big advantage. I mean, that's why Throne Room is so popular, right? Because Throne Room gets to go first, and it takes away some of Darkseid's momentum. So giving a deck like Diplo, which can be a little vulnerable in turn 1-ish, the ability to not have to deal with that, and a little more flexibility, and he's gonna might and get Leia. And for Mr. Shaw, we've got Strike Planning, which he'll use to get Mon Mothma and General, probably Kraken, could be General solo, most likely Kraken. And I must be allowed to speak, which pulls the farm. Also is going to get him some used pile searches, which is certainly a very powerful mechanic. And then we've got Wackling for effect number 3. Alright, looks like some people are starting to pile into the old Twitch chat now. Thank you guys very much for tuning in and joining the chat. Now we'll find out what Greg has activated, if he's missing any of his key components. He just gets Mon Mothma, so he didn't take his second pull, it doesn't look like, unless he did that first. Nope. So it's a good chance that Kraken's either already in his hand, or maybe he's just not running him. It wouldn't make sense not to run him. He seems like an auto-include. He's a character that technically draws Destiny by himself, and is a pilot, and you can bull him. So, alright, so he's got Alderaan. That's step 1. Step 2 would be making sure Chandrilla is also in there. He'll put Mothma down for free, and use her to pull Chandrilla, and then the Tantive can move and get halfway to Alderaan. Does have to be a little careful against Court because of the ability that the objective has to pull ships. You can get a docking bay or an independent starship, so it'll get things like Zuckuss the Mist Hunter, like Ellis and Hinthra, Jabba Space Cruiser, just to name a few. Oh, he already had Bail. Okay, well, that's a good start. Bail Organa adds Destiny while aboard a Corvette, can't be targeted by weapons, and adds 1 to 4 strains at Battlegrounds, where you have an Alderaanian of ability less than 4, including himself. Leia Organa is an Alderaanian. Tycho's an Alderaanian. That Ensign Chad guy is an Alderaanian. And Vanden Willard, who's now virtualized, is also an Alderaanian. There's a couple more, but those are the more popular ones that you see people playing with currently, some combination of those 3 or 4. And there's for Leia, first turn. Alright, so we got Savrip out. That came down for free, because 3PO's on the table. This is one that if you lose a battle, you just lose stuff from your hand for its full forfeit value to reduce your battle damage and attrition. It is cancelled by the Masterful Move combo, and Cold Feet also, I believe. And he's going to put Leia to the Dune Sea, where she will get a used pile search. The Dune Sea, total ability 6 or more required for you to draw Battle Destiny here. So there's a handful of characters that are unable to draw there, making it a decent spot to set up in the beginning. Also gets around the objective damage from Court, because one of the things it says here too is each player loses 1 force at end of each of their deploy phases, unless that player has a non-droid character at a Tatooine battleground site. So he's going to go ahead and put Leia down. Chandrilla must be active, so he hasn't pulled that yet. He pulled Battle Plan in the move phase, and there's nowhere for him to move his Tantive to. And he is not going to draw. He's going to leave those 3 force, whether that's... So he's got multiple cards he's looking to play, or he's concerned about... Oof, pulls all 4 shields already. So he's got the Grabber, he's got the Do or Do Not for the possible senses, which anytime anyone's doing according to my design, starting the Emperor on table. Sense seems like a likely card. Then he pulled Battle Plan to make him have to pay for this drain with the Emperor, and then he pulled the Goldenrod to make him have to pay for things like the possible alien from Java Space Cruiser, I think, is free. Blizzard 4 being a popular one. And some of the other guys deploy free aboard certain shit, like Guri deploys free aboard the Stinger or something. So, making him have to pay for those things, should they be in this deck. When you get into these hybrid decks, like a court main style deck, you never really know exactly which direction the person's taking the deck in. So, we're going to have to wait and see here. And Greg's going to get a first turn verify. So Steve went to pull Nalhutta and missed. Huh. May not search reserve deck a previously failed search function from system. Well, that's a nice little updated note. So yeah, so Steve misses the Nalhutta system, and Greg just got a pretty good look at the 32 cards in his reserve deck. So now he knows 2/3 of Steve's strategy. Steve will now use the court objective to either get a docking bay for some activation or to get a ship to go contest this Tantive. He is going to go with the docking bay. So right now, oh, and there's a Phantom Menace. So right now the Tantive is just power 5, but it does have plenty of forfeit aboard. Bale is giving it a Battle Destiny, potentially, and there's Maul. Mothma does not. R2 and 3PO soak up 7 forfeit, and they just go down to the Dune Sea and then shuttle back up. So while it's sitting here at Tatooine, it's not the most appealing target. No barrier for Maul. He does have the Savrip. We'll see if Steve has a canceller for Savrip. He does have the It's a Trap as well. And he will pay 3 to try and cancel the battle, and it looks like he will be successful. Use 3 force, cancel any battle just initiated at a site. Oh, that part is immune to sense. It's the first part that's not. My mistake. First part here is what cancels sniper or blasted droid. So no sense there for Steve. They're still coming through, I think, is the card from Coruscant that cancels that card. Also cancels Rebel Barrier, so it's a pretty decent utility interrupt for a lot of dark side decks. Doesn't always make the cut, though. Steve will drain. Greg will drain for 1 at Tatooine. His drain is -1 because of his objective currently, but Bale adds 1. And Steve top decks Grand Moff Tarkin Virtual. Now Greg's going to try and go get Chandrilla. And then I think we're going to see him move some people away. He's down to 4 cards in his hand. He'll get Chandrilla, get his Tantive moving. I'm sure he would love to have an additional pilot or something aboard before he does that. But at the very least, he'll take the 2 extra activation. I'm sure we'll see Leia move away. And he'll reload his hand and draw a bunch of cards. Now with Steve starting Crush the Rebellion, I don't think we'll see Greg draw over 12 cards anytime soon. Okay, so he does have another character to put down. He's got Ahsoka. Very popular new card from set 11, Ahsoka Tano. Subtracts 1 from opponent's Battle Destiny draws here. That's just pretty good. And During any deploy phase, if a Padawan or a Sith character at an adjacent site, she can make a move to that site using land speed as a regular move. This part doesn't come up as often, but certainly could. Um, Sith character, so we've got Darth Maul there, Sith character. Yeah, and she's immune to permanent weapons and attrition less than 5. The permanent weapons part is the big part because so many decks run EPP Maul, P59 as kind of their, you know, uh, ground clearing package. 2 or 3 Mauls and a Phantom Menace or two, and you can pretty much get through a good chunk of stuff. So her being immune to all that and subtracting 1 from a Destiny draw and being immune to less than 5 makes her a character who's not so easy to get off the board. So, and then as suspected, Leia moves over to Ahsoka. The Tantive moves to Chandrilla, and Greg draws 4 cards from his force pile. Steve's going to go try and get Nalhutta again. Looks like he's going to find it this time. And again, with this being a match play situation with both players playing the 2-game series here, with Greg having won the first game by 21, he doesn't have to win the second game. He just has to lose it by 20 or fewer cards. So I would expect him. He may not take the typical Diplo approach to things. Looks like he went kind of for the early damage approach, getting Bale out right away, getting Leia out right away, and just trying to just force Steve to put some cards on the table, especially when he saw he wasn't playing Scum and isn't going to be able to just keep retrieving stuff, and just try and get some drains in, get some damage in as early as possible, and just try and get Steve down, to 20 or a fewer cards. And we'll go full screen on that now. Why didn't anybody tell me that I wasn't in full screen? Alright, there's the Ellison Hinthra. Going to Tatooine. This is going to be a bigger drain of 3 now. Once per game, you can deploy a smuggler aboard. Usually you get Woof, who's pretty handy. Occasionally some people get Pon de Baba. Yep, there's Woof. While at opponent's system, it adds a light side icon. So, whereas like Tanev adds a light side icon, turning things into battlegrounds, Ellison Hinthra also adds a light side icon, making things bigger drains. Woof is the guy who subtracts 1 from battle and weapon destiny draws here, also adds 3 to power. So this is power 7, and this is going to be a drain of 3 at the Tatooine system. And with Greg already having pulled all 4 defensive shields, he would need to find a perimeter scan or a hear me baby or something to get an extra shield pull to get ultimatum if he wanted to spread out to 3 battlegrounds. Otherwise, he's going to be eating a drain of 3 and 1. Does get the drain of 2 now at Chandrilla by moving away. The extra 1 there from Bale. Steve top decks and loses Asajj Ventress with Lightsaber and Dengar in Punishing 1. Okay. Just going to refresh the page here because either you guys are being incredibly quiet or Twitch is being weird and not showing me chat comments again. Could be a little of both. Alright, there's Mos Eisley. He's going to have a long walk to get there, though. got to go right through the Sarlacc pit to do it. Greg is going to use Walkling. He's going to pay 3, and he's going to upload projection of a Skywalker. So he can put that down on the audience chamber, I would assume. Yep, making that drain of 0 now. Excuse me. That's a fairly astute analysis in the chat there by a rebel spy. Yeah, if it was Court Scum playing against Diplo and he had lots of retrieval, that could certainly be a very favorable scenario for Steve in trying to get to a 20 plus, 21 plus win. Playing a more mains version, he can certainly get some board control. He can do some early damage. But, you know, Diplo's going to flip here in a turn or two and start slowly retrieving some of that and start clearing some of these characters off the board. And just kind of hanging around long enough and then slowly whittle things away and kind of stabilize and take control of the board back. Greg is going to need to find another ship zone, though, to do something about this Ellison Hinthra drain of 3 being shield busted already. I don't know if I would have pulled the goldenrod already, but maybe he saw something in it when he verified Steve's deck that gave him an inkling that that might be something he wants to do. He does deploy Young Skywalker. This is not EPP Luke. This is Young Skywalker, the virtual Jedi version, who's also immune to less than 6. Okay, there we go. He gets a use pile pull from that. Wonder if that's what he pulled was the Bright Hope. He'll put that to Chandrilla. We'll see him ship dock and move the droids onto the Bright Hope, and then move the Bright Hope to Alderaan. And use that to flip while maintaining a battleground system and the extra force activation from Chandrilla. And then that'll flip his objective as well, because he'll control a site in a system with a rebel. And for safely delivering the plans to Alderaan, Greg also gets to take any card from his reserve deck into hand. So he had 13 cards in there to choose from. That should also help him out quite a bit in terms of setting up his next turn. And then we'll see him move away. See if he splits these guys up. Yeah. Kind of force maul which direction he wants to go in, if any. He may just deploy somebody else here and kind of pin Leia in the middle, but with Savrip out, he certainly Leia could certainly get stuck if this gets canceled and, you know, Vader comes down this turn, or, you know, Sidious or somebody like that. But Steve will get some drains in first. He'll get a drain of 3 at Tatooine. And this is a drain of 1 at the farm. It's -1 unless you have Vader or a trooper there. There goes a Chewie Protector. There goes a Corran Horn. There goes It's a Hit. That's another thing. I'd be curious to see if Steve is playing with, oh, he's going to pull the Fanfare Shield. Uh, I guess a little leery of a possible Lost in the Wilderness. Oh, there goes an Obi-Wan Kenobi off the top as well. I was going to say, I'd be curious to see if Steve is running an Ellis Hellrot to move this Maul where he's needed. '16 Force active. He just verified his reserve deck, so he's got a good idea of what he's gotten lined up for some possible Destiny draws. 12 cards in hand. This is kind of one of those turns where he's got a lot of options, and the game can take a variety of paths from here. Is there something he can pull with the objective? He already lost Dengar in punishing one, but is Zuckuss available to him that he can, try and battle here and, possibly do some damage there or make him forfeit some stuff? It's unlikely with Sovrop out and Craig having 7 cards in hand, but he's going to play Evader Monarch. There it is. He's going to pay 4 for some extra information. He's going to use the Evader Monarch Lost, make Greg reveal his hand, which will then show up here in the chat. So Greg's hand contains Jyn Erso, Chirrut Imwe, Tatooine Celebration, Commander Nara, the Cantina, Rebel Barrier, and a Hoojix. So even if he cancels Sovrop, he does still have the Hoojix and the Barrier as backup protection. I'm sure it's not what Steve was hoping to see. Not at all. Kind of lets him know that his options are maybe a little limited in terms of what he can do in terms of damage this turn then. Oh, Kylo Ren. There's the other guy I forgot. So he spends 5 on Kylo. Sends Kylo after young Skywalker. And Greg will play the barrier, which will be successful. So Steve draws it out of his hand. The question is does he have somebody else that he was trying to bait him with? There, all right, so there's P-59 going after Leia. Highly unlikely to get any. Let me rephrase that. Not going to get any overflow here with in this particular battle, but he can cause some force loss. P-59 can hit Leia, causing 2 force loss, and then she'll be hit, and then she'll have to leave the table. So Sovrop wouldn't be as protective, unless of course he happens to draw a 2 and miss. And now he'll get a chance to see what Steve draws for Battle Destiny here before making his decision on what to do. So he's adding 2 to his total. He drew fairly low. That's a 3, so it puts him up to 7. She's immune to less than 3. He could decline to draw if he wants to keep Leia on the table, and then just use Sovrop and throw away a character from his hand and just have the battle end. Or you can just draw high, win the battle, retrieve Obi for winning the battle. And I'll take the Antilles maneuver into hand as well with Mon Mothma. Secret Plans is out, so he'll pay 1 and retrieve that Obi. And this seems like the better play to me. I was in a similar situation in my game last night and came to the same conclusion that retrieving the character, getting him back is pretty strong, especially when it's a good character like Obi. And, I'm sure there's other ways to, he'll get Leia back. He could Walkling Leia back or next turn or something. Or he's got Tatooine Celebration in his hand as well as his ships migrate their way back to Tatooine. There's a pretty good chance he may see some of these characters again. Greg uses his second strike planning search and does not find whatever he was looking for. So either it's in his hand or it was one of those few cards that he used there. It would have been the card he used to retrieve if that was whatever character he was looking for. So Greg will still get a drain of 2 here at Chandrilla, which he'll do now. And at some point we'll see the Bright Hope move back over. That'll kind of keep this protected for a little while longer. He'll still eat this drain over here, but they could both then make the jump back if they wanted to, which seems likely because he does have the Celebration in hand already. Steve's going to lose Force Lightning and Greedo. Greedo's always an interesting character. Deploys as a react. Opponent must first use a force to fire a weapon. And Neighborin can't transport guys to and from there. And sorry about the mess. Has to target Greedo if possible. Because he is an alien as well, you can retrieve him with Jabba's Haven, so he can come back, deploy as a react anywhere he's kind of needed. Shaw will deploy Commander Nara. Nara is a guy who also draws by himself. And if you just deployed a Rogue Squadron pilot, you can draw the top card of Reserve Deck, which he will do. Also happens to add 1 to Attrition. And that's same or related site. This text works. It's only once per turn, but, Cornhorn, Wedge. Those are a couple of Rogue Squadron guys. Occasionally you might see, I think that's about it. Actually, I think it's really just those two. But he draws a card for himself, so he replaces them in your hand. He deploys cheap. He draws Battle Destiny if unable to otherwise, and he gives you an extra +1 from your objective. So he's kind of a very efficient character for a deck like this that wants to spread out. We'll see if Greg puts the Cantina down now and then just shuffles everybody over. Move Luke to the Cantina, move Ahsoka in front of Kylo, where she can't be targeted by his lightsaber. That seems like a good way to go. And then he can keep her around a little longer and then possibly start doing the Cantina shuffle. Put Jyn Erso undercover at Mos Eisley. Okay, so he's not going to go that route. He'll move Luke into the Cantina, and I guess he'll move Ahsoka back to Large Moisture Farm. And he's going to add Radis to the Tantive. That gives him 5 ability piloting there, and when he moves the Bright Hope back over, that'll get him back to 7 ability. Should Zuckuss decide to make an appearance. Oh, he's going big. He's just going straight to block. He's going to leave the Bright Hope at Alderaan, I guess, until he finds a pilot or something, because it can't quite make that jump. And he's going to move the Tantive back to Tatooine. And he's just going to bank on this Savrip to get him out of trouble again. So this is power 6. Right now he's looking at 2 Battle Destiny. One because he's got 5 ability. The second one because you've got Bail. But if Zuckuss does make an appearance, he would not draw any Battle Destiny. But then he would just pitch a guy with Savrip instead of taking battle damage. So this is a very strong card, which is why there's a number of counters to it. he'll draw half a dozen cards here. Get some extra stuff in his hand to extra forfeit. In this style, oh, he's going to put Wackling on a play here, and he's going to retrieve Leia. Anywho, in this style of deck, from Steve, this type of mains kind of reactive power deck here. Oh, he had the might. Okay, so he's just going to take it right back into hand now. I would expect to see First Strike in this deck. Causes a little extra damage, gives him a little bit of token retrieval, especially in a situation where he knows he needs to retrieve a few cards to get a bigger win. And we'll be curious to see if and when that's going to hit the table as well. Greg has saved Force pretty much every turn, as if he's almost anticipating that being an option. Now that he's flipped also, he's going to have to pay for his retrieval for any battles he wins. But, yeah, certainly keeping... Oh, there's the sniper. We talked about it earlier that It's a Hit does... I'm sorry, It's a Trap cancels that, but... Let's see if Greg has a defensive card. Or if Jin is just going to get sniped. He's debating something. He is going to try and sense it with Luke. Okay. And he draws Obi for the Destiny, and so the sense will be successful. He did play Do or Do Not, so he is going to have to lose the sense and 2 force. But he will get to keep Jin on the table, blocking a drain at 2, so it kind of works out. It's about the same. Costs him 1 extra card this turn, because he also loses the sense in this situation. But he topped, so he loses the Obi from the used, and he top decks Luke, the Last Jedi. And now Maul will drain for 1. And there goes the Kraken from reserve deck. So I guess Kraken was the force he spent to retrieve. And now we're going to see Steve deploy Zuckuss. Yep. Antilles maneuver. Alright, so he is saving some extra force for that as well. That's a good play. I forgot he had that. Took that into hand when he drew for Destiny. During opponent's deploy phase, deploy a rebel of ability less than 3, except an admiral, aboard your starship. He's going to get Captain Antilles, who deploys -1 aboard the Tantive, makes him immune to less than 5 and immune to lateral damage, and gives him 2 more ability piloting. So now he's got 7 ability piloting here. So now he will get to draw his 2 Battle Destiny. Unless Steve has a barrier or something for him, which doesn't look like he does. Steve does drop an Imperial Decree virtual. Not sure what effect that's going to have for him right now, but Potentially, it could be used, I guess, to have a character get a battle destiny that doesn't ordinarily. Let's see if this is draws if unable to otherwise. Yeah, draw one if unable to otherwise. So if you put somebody uh, at the Dune Sea who doesn't ordinarily get a battle destiny, maybe like an ability 4 character or like Arica or Mara Jade or whatever he might be running, he could then lose this to draw if unable to. Yep, there she is. But I guess he opts to send her to the Cantina instead. And she's going to go after young Skywalker, who at one point in time was her husband in the book series. I think that's none of that exists anymore, but hey. We still remember. Speaking of strange coincidences in book series and stuff, I just found out today that Star Wars legend Mark Hamill is going to be filming a TV show in southern New Jersey this month. And it's like, okay, well, A, how do I meet him? And B, how do we get him to like co-host a game? Mark, going to do some side-by-side commentary for a Star Wars OCS playoff match? That would be beyond ridiculous. But all right, so we get a battle up in space. Greg plays perimeter scan and pulls the weapons display shield. And Steve draws a 4, which the Tanev is currently immune to. Now Greg's going to get his 2 battle destiny, which are each -1 because of Woof. But he's adding 2 to the total, so that's going to offset Woof's subtractions. So basically we're just going to get what we draw. So he's got 2 4s, so he's going to have an 8 for his total. Greg's going to lose nothing. Steve's going to lose Zuckuss and Woof. Woof and Ellis and Hinthra, and then move Zuckuss away. But in the meantime, Greg's going to win the battle and then retrieve a card and get General Kraken back. And that was not a good battle for Steve. Greg forfeited Mon Mothma when he didn't have to. That's curious. Either he didn't notice that he's immune to less than 5 because of Captain Antilles there, Captain Ramus. Maybe he had some much deeper strategy in terms of forfeiting her, but I'm going to go with that was a mistake. As the other Star Wars commentators would say, that might be a swing and a miss kind of moment. Zuckuss runs away. Maul moves over in front of Ahsoka. Steve draws a couple cards. And we know Greg's got the celebration. That's the other thing, too. The Masterful Move combo also cancels celebration, but it's the card you need to kind of cancel Savrip. So if Steve were to draw it, then he also has to consider how he wants to play it. Because if he plays it to cancel Savrip, Greg will just grab it. Unless he happens to catch him at a time when he has no force, like right now. Greg would just grab it and then play Celebration, and then just retrieve the Masterful Move and loop it back around for the following turn or two. Surprised he's even allowed to forfeit Mouthmouth. He has attrition. He just happens to be immune to it. So immunity to attrition is certainly voluntary. Um, Maul in front of Ahsoka is curious. Well, yeah, I mean, well, he does have Phantom Menace out, so Maul is completely immune to attrition there. I think Steve is really just more looking to, take less damage that he can. So, oh, nice, you guys are awake in the chat. Thanks for joining in. I know it's late. It's a Friday night. Everybody's busy doing other stuff. Greg drained for 2 at Tatooine. Force Push and Gick came off the top. There goes an Imperial Barrier for the drain at the Dune C. Steve's down to 20 cards now in Life Force and 9 in hand. I wouldn't surprise me to see... Well, Greg has a number of options he thinks he could do this turn. He didn't save any Destiny here, but we saw earlier that he has Chirrut in hand, so he could deploy Chirrut and then at some point use the once per game to recirculate. Very strong text that seems underwhelming when you first read it. If you don't quite grasp the situations like this where it comes in handy, where you can activate extra force, spend all of it, and not have to worry about do I have to leave 2? Do I have to leave 3? Maybe I gotta leave 1 more in case he has like a close call or something to make me redraw it. And then you're like, well, now I've only got 12 force to spend. It's like, no, take all 16. Use 13 of them deploying stuff, and then just have Chirrut recirculate it all and have that one big game-changing battle. Celebration going to come down now, and this is going to snowball. That's what I would expect. I would expect to see Tatooine Celebration hit the table. And I was curious if he was just going to bounce Luke out, break Jin's cover, deploy 1 or 2 other people here, and kind of overwhelm Kylo, since we saw the Gick go off the top. But it looks like he's going to take a slightly different approach. He's going to put Rey on board the Bright Hope. Use Rey's text to take any card from used pile. That would be his 3rd used pile search of the game. He lost Chewie earlier. We haven't seen Lando yet. He could be looking for Lando right now. There's the celebration. Seems like that would be the nail in the coffin. Steve's already down to 20 cards with 9 in hand. He's got Cassian. Okay. And the question is where will we see... Or will we see Chirrut come down? Yep, okay, there he is. Once per game, gets to recirculate. He's already covered Maris forfeit. He's ahead by 9. He'll peek at his own card and probably activate it. Yep, just to give himself 1 extra force. So, for those of you not familiar, Chirrut, if a battle was just initiated here, peek at top card of any reserve deck, return it, or place it on top of owner's force pile. So he looks at his own, in this case, and then activates it to give himself 1 extra force. You could also look at his opponent's Destiny, and if it happened to be something good like a Phantom Menace on top, he can just put it in his force pile so he doesn't draw it for Destiny here. It's going to be hard for Mara. Mara can hit Cassian, it's probably about it. To draw 2 5s seems a bit unlikely. And Steve's going to double shuffle his deck Because I think Steve's starting to realize, see the writing on the wall here, and yeah, he's being silly in chat saying he's trying to get all the 5s on the top. So yeah, you can swing at Cassian. He draws a 1. And a 5. Now Greg's got the option. Does he cancel this or does he cancel the Battle Destiny? I think I would have canceled the Battle Destiny, but he is going to cancel the Weapon Destiny to keep Cassian from being hit and retaining his forfeit value. I would have canceled the Battle Destiny just because you have a bigger forfeit advantage, power-wise there. If she's just a 5, she forfeits for 8, she's at 13, you're at 14. He's already peeling at least 1 card plus whatever you draw, which in this case is a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he draws a 4. That gets him to 9. Mara forfeits for 8 in the Cantina because aliens are forfeit plus 1 here. So he'll lose Mara and 3 cards. And Cassian still dies. Because he's done his job. He did his once per game cancel trick. So you end up in the same spot. Cassian dies either way. The other way, you just get a few extra cards in battle damage. And Steve's going to peel a couple from hand. He had it disarmed. He had another Phantom Menace. And he loses the force field from his used pile. Greg won the battle but opted not to retrieve. The other thing too is when he loses Cassian, he can activate a force, so he just gave himself 1 more force to work with. This could be a battle here. If he was going to do that, that might have been a battle. Well, no, he needed the extra force from Chirrut and from Cassian to battle and retrieve. But you could battle Maul here because you were adding still 1, 2, 3 to your total. So you're at 8 to 7. She can't be hit. You're subtracting 1 from his. So again, you can cause some overflow in the battle or make him have to lose Maul. I'm sure Greg likes the idea, though, of Maul being kind of stuck on the table where he can account for him. There's the Savrip. Cancel. Here comes the altar. And that should be successful because he does have the Emperor on the table. So he will get rid of that. This thing only... Yep, it's never immune to altar. Something makes it immune to altar. I think it's one of those like Hopping Mad or whatever random cards. But so the altar's lost. Savrip goes lost. But Greg saved a force, and we know he's got the Hujix in hand, so even still, Commander Nara over here doesn't seem to be in too much immediate danger. I'm glad you agree with me, Chris Kelly. Thank you. It makes me feel a little bit better knowing that somebody out there agrees with my opinions. You can stay. I know people have tried to run you out of the community, but you can stay. There's a Blizzard 4, which currently does not get a Battle Destiny. Here comes an EPP Vader, which he drew for Destiny. And a Kyrkanos. Kyrkanos only cancels a non-immune to sense interrupt, which Hujix is immune to, so Kyrkanos won't have any benefit here. So as it sits right now, this is going to draw out that Hujix that's in Greg's hand, which Steve should know is there because it was revealed during the Evader Monarch he played a few turns ago. And Steve's just going to empty everything on the board right now. He knows where he's at. $17-2. Battle. They both draw Destiny. It's a 5. So right now Greg is down 20. But he's going to draw Destiny and add 3 to it. He also draws a 5. So that becomes an 8. So he's down by 12. Nara forfeits for 3. So worst case scenario, if he didn't have the Hujix, he'd be peeling 9 cards here. And that would certainly hurt. That would hurt quite a bit. He'd get to retrieve 2 of them next turn with the celebration, but there's the Hujix. And now we'll see if Steve decides to play this out any further. Now that he's down to 18 plus 2 in hand, only having 20 life force remaining. We'll see what he wants to do. Good luck in the next round. Yeah. I have a feeling we're going to see a concession coming. See him concede the game right here. No. He spends the force and moves. Craig moves Jin over. Vader gets out. Looks like they're just goofing around right now. We'll go ahead and update our bracket after this game. Advancing Mr. Shaw. Also have to advance Gavino, 1983, who advanced earlier today over Tom. Tom was, I guess, unavailable to play Game 2 of their match. He lost Game 1 by, it was over 20 cards, and opted just to concede the match. He wasn't going to have time to play Game 2, and again, losing by 20 plus is it's tough to come back from in matchups with the level of skill of the players in the OCS playoffs. So we still have some other games left to be played to finish out the bracket. We still have Chris Kelly and Batmouse, who have not played either of their 2 games yet. I believe game number 1 is Saturday at like 6 p.m., I think. Batmouse specifically requested that Dan Tartaglione comment that game, and I believe Dan said he would make himself available for that, so he'll be doing your streaming tomorrow. And then we have game 2 left between Silver Glen and Adam Trunzo. Their first game today, I didn't catch the end of it. When I left work at 5 o'clock, they were still playing. They were both down to about 10 cards. I don't know the exact outcome of that game. I heard there was an issue where like Jemp froze on like the last turn, so I guess they worked it out. And I heard that possibly it was a win for Silver Glen by 3, but oh, Chris Kelly requests that I commentate game 2 of your match. Oh, well, that's awfully nice of you. Do you have game 2 scheduled already, Chris Kelly? I can put it on the board. And thanks for watching, Yoshi. All right, so Greg, gonna go through the motions here. He's gonna retrieve 3 with Celebration after he does a little Cantina shuffle here. Then he will drain 2 in the Cantina, 2 at Moss Eisley, to drain a 2 at Tatooine, and 1 over here at Nalhutta. So he's causing 7 force loss. So again, even if he had peeled a whole bunch of stuff in this battle here, the 9 overflow would have taken him down to, like, you know, he would have had about 5 or 6 cards left down. Most of his hand would have been empty at that point, but then he still would have caused 7 damage and retrieved 2 or 3 cards, and then been like, go. Sunday at 6 o'clock. Special guest referee in WWE. Exactly. Is Baroni available? Probably not. Hey, look, kids, it's Lando. And he'll get 1 more used pile search. And Steve will give his reserve deck a shuffle just for hoo-ha's. Oh, and then he's going to play the Antilles maneuver to make him have to pay 1 force to swing. Steve was getting excited briefly over the possibility of being able to finally swing at someone, i.e. Lando, and then Greg plays Antilles maneuver so he may not swing without first paying a force, of which Steve has none left. I'm guessing Steve did not activate a force with wipe. I mean, he could if he wanted to swing at somebody, right? Yeah, I guess he... And there's another 8. And Steve's down by 10. And Greg will get to retrieve a card and get his Sovereign back. He forfeits Ahsoka and keeps Lando. Like I said, I think at this point they're just really just screwing around. I wouldn't take anything they've done for the last 5 minutes at all seriously. And it looks like Steve's just going to top deck a whole bunch of cards so he can keep Maul on the table. Ah, and then he's going to lose Maul when he gets down to one card left. And then he's going to activate one. Oh, he's going to send Phantom Menace Shoes to put the 7 on top. There you go. All right. Steve just commenting in the chat that he's trying not to push the concede button this time around and actually play the game to a conclusion, which he accidentally did the first time around. So he'll get some drains in. Greg will pitch a couple cards from hand. And then Steve will draw up before he retrieves more from Celebration and such. And it'll be a win by 17 for Mr. Shaw. We'll wish him congratulations and moving on to the next round. And congrats to Steve on making the OCS playoffs. Certainly not an easy thing to do, and deserves a recognition of his achievement for that. And I'm sure we'll see Steve back at hopefully at some live events in 2020. He didn't really play much in 2019. And he does draw up his remaining life force. All right, so that'll wrap it up for this game. And then we will go ahead and get our jump bracket updated. Haha, you don't get to see my password. Okay, so we don't have that game here. Gavin advanced. We'll update that. And Greg advances. So we can update that. So it'll be Greg and Gavin in the next round, and we're just waiting on this game here and then game 2 of this match. All right. Well, that will go ahead and wrap up our broadcast for this evening. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Tune in tomorrow night, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Batmouse versus Chris Kelly, game 1 of their matchup. Until then, you guys have a great night and take care.